Welcome, folks, to this week's Current Events and Bible Study. We're going to do current events today. Now, we're going to shorten the break some between the lessons and current events and lesson because we're going to show some videos today. It's going to take a little more time than normal. But we're going to start on current events as always. I'm going to start reading one. We'll read one verse of Ezekiel 22. Now, if you understand Ezekiel, and I didn't for years, so don't feel bad if you don't understand. I still don't understand it all, but you'll realize he's prophesying a lot to Ephraim and Israel, and Ephraim being us, we should pay attention to it. But in Ezekiel 22, now listen please. Now I want you to bring it up to today's time in the religious condition of America. I didn't say Christian, I said religious. In verse 28, and her prophets have daubed them with untempered mortar. Untempered mortar will not hold together. Y'all know that, right? Mm-hmm. So they were teaching them false teachings, seeing vanity or being prideful, and dividing lies unto them, saying, Thus saith the Lord God, when the Lord had not spoken. Now that's so important to understand this, that we are seeing today in America in the religious organizations, not Christian churches, religious organizations called 501c3 corporations. They are not the true Church of Christ, and most of them are daubing with untempered mortar. They're teaching false doctrine to please the people and to keep them coming in and the money flowing. And the people are going to hell by the millions, believing they're okay. Now I'm going to prove that to you in the next lesson. I'm going to do this starting today. I'm going to do a lesson on how to be sure you're born again. And you're going to find out that Christ himself said, many will cry, Lord, Lord. And I never knew him. Is that true?
Yes.
Let's start current events. A little bit of good news here. Judge rules in favor of Washington man who has had guns seized over satirical joker meme. A King County judge ruled in favor of 23-year-old Charles Donnelly and ordered the state to give him back his firearms after they were seized in the red flag laws in early October because he made edgy jokes on the internet. How dare he do that? Mm-hmm. And to be expected, the media is now furious that this memester's out of context jokes were not enough to have him disarmed for life. Isn't that sad? And Trump started this with his big mouth a year ago. He said, "Take the guns first, then go to court." Did he not say that? Mm-hmm. This is some good news. ATF, 423 million guns in America, 1.2 per person, and 8.1 billion rounds of ammunition produced a year. If the people would hang on to their guns and use them, there ain't an army in the world conquer us. So think about that. That's a fact. And South Carolina is a fourth state to put up the bill. That this has been passed in 3 states already. See, it's Wyoming. I'm trying to find out 3 states real quick. With this already law. Come on now. Wyoming, Oklahoma. And there was one other one, Utah. And South Carolina, they just got a bill up by Stuart Jones, H4678, which will make gold and silver money again in the state. Mm. Legal money, lawful money. And it cannot be taxed. You cannot tax gold and silver, folks.
Well, the IRS won't like that.
No, they won't like it. But this will also put them in competition against the Federal Reserve, which will mostly destroy the Federal Reserve, though. But the fourth state to recognize gold and silver as legal tender. The effect has been most dramatic in Utah, where United Precious Metals Association was established after the passage of Utah Speech and Legal Tender Act, elimination of all taxes on gold and silver. Hear that? You can't tax gold and silver. Why? How do you tax it? It's a solid object. You can't scrape off the edges because that's against the law.
They used to do that.
They used to do that.
That's why they put the little ridges.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. So I said the Utah Goldback, don't you like that? Describes it as the first local voluntary currency to be made of expendable, beautiful physical gold. Mm-hmm. Some people catching on. Mm-hmm. So anyway, The Week magazine. Good week for Ivanka Trump, who has single-handedly created 14 million jobs since 2017. A senior White House official, her father, boasted in a speech. This means Ivanka deserves credit for staggering 233% of the 6 million U.S. jobs created during that period. They said his daughter created 14 million jobs. That's 200% more than what they were. Bad week for millennials, with a new study warning of a troubling generational health patterns among those born between 1981 and 1996, including depression, hyperactivity, high cholesterol, and substance abuse. Without intervention, the study said millennials could have a 40% higher mortality rate than the preceding Generation X. And folks, it's how we live, it's what we eat. We poison stuff every day. Fast food, junk food, TV, no exercise, phones. That all boils down to that, doesn't it?
Boy, you must be a doctor.
I reckon.
No, he remembers the past.
I do remember the past. Well, Dick and I grew up here up in Monterey, a few miles south from here. We were never in the house, were we, Dick?
No, we was in the woods.
I mean, we was always out. Now, this is really a statement that should make us understand what America is today. Butt Gag. I call him Butt Gag. His name is Buddy Geek or whatever it is, the pervert out of Indiana. Mm-hmm. The sodomite dog out of Indiana is surging in the polls. He's gaining ground. And if that doesn't tell you what America is today, I don't know what does. Yeah. Out sodomite. He's a female half, by the way. He's a female half. The other one's a husband. Isn't it amazing?
Oh, he's the feminine.
He's the feminine side. Now, stop thinking about this. They're meant in their own relationship. There is a man-woman.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Someone's always dominant.
Yeah. Someone's got to be the man.
Got to be dominant.
Yeah. So anyway, but that shows America today. When this piece of trash, and I'm saying trash, folks, I don't apologize for it, can become a leader in the presidential candidate in the country, there ain't much hope for the country. Is that right, Dick?
Well, trash is too good of a word. The words you need to use, you shouldn't put on air.
Oh, that's true.
Well, there was 4 other women running with that female, too.
Oh, yeah, I know. And now gun makers are going to be sued when somebody uses a gun to kill somebody. You know, the Supreme Court ruled they could sue gun makers. So they're getting worried about how they just stay in existence. Wit and wisdom. Polarizing people is a good way to win an election and a good way to wreck a country.
Oh, yeah. Divide and conquer.
Political language is designed to make lies sound truthful and murder respectable and to give an appearance of solidity to pure wind. Ain't that the truth?
Yes.
Another Week magazine. Good week for doing donuts after a dog left unattended in an idling car somehow, put the vehicle in reverse and rode for an hour as the vehicle made circles in a Florida street before crashing into a mailbox. Good week for revelations after outgoing Energy Secretary Rick Perry announced on Fox News that President Trump is the chosen one who has been sent by God to do great things. Perry, 69, called Trump a cancer on conservation before joining his administration. Good week for whiteness after Utah state legislature introduced a bill that would ban teenagers from using tanning salons even with their parents' consent. There's no medical need for a tanning. So they're passing laws to regulate going to tanning beds.
No end.
There's no end. Bad week for demanding a recount after Sandy Hawkins, 73, allegedly told a teller at a Boca Raton bank he had a weapon and demanded $1,000. When the teller counted out $2,000, Hawkins, sporting a Make America Great Again t-shirt, said it was too much, made her take back $900 and left. He was later arrested.
He is an honest crook.
Oh, gosh.
That's all the money he needed.
Prince Andrew, as y'all know his story about him, sexual deviant, is now, you say he's hiding away in Britain because people actually hate him now, apparently for what he's done, and they should. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, as the lady said that outed him, I forget her name. What was her name? Guthrie said that it's when you have a nation or society that not only doesn't punish criminal doers, but that leaves himself in part of it, you've lost society. And this article here says gun laws, the rebellion against enforcement. In rural America, the resistance movement is boiling up, said Gregory Schneider in the Washington Post. Dozens of counties, including 25 in New Mexico's 33, and nearly 2/3 of those in Illinois have declared themselves Second Amendment sanctuaries. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. They're starting to kick back. Praise God for that.
Yes.
In fact, the state of Wyoming has declared itself a Second Amendment sanctuary.
I think we'll do the same thing here, too. I believe it's going to happen here. Wit and wisdom. True terror is to wake up one morning and discover that your high school class is running the country.
Yours wouldn't be too bad.
Oh, gracious. Now, we know that in London there are no guns.
They said you almost have to have a permit to own a butter knife.
Well, we know the guy in London killed several and stabbed 12 different people on the London Bridge attack. Now, folks, it's simple. Just take away all the knives.
Yeah, they said it's hard to.
Yeah, just take away the knife, man.
But see, what do we know about the gentleman who did the murdering? He was a Muslim.
Yep.
He was in prison for terrorism. They thought they had reconditioned this man, rehabilitated him, let him out early.
Yeah.
He turns around and does this.
Look what happened down in Florida with their Navy base. Another Muslim.
But the man who stopped this man from doing all the knifing, he also was a convicted murderer.
But speaking of the London Bridge, you know, a lot of people commit suicide by jumping off bridges.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just get rid of bridges.
Hey, now that's not.
It's
Why
the
do you think
bridge's
about
fault, it
that? For
shouldn't have
goodness
been
sake?
Well, and who was that guy that
Bridge
drove
made me do it.
I think it was a Chevy van into a herd of people up in New England state.
Mhm.
Herd of people, that's really good.
Don't make Chevy vans, just Ford.
Should we just ban Chevys too?
Of course. We should sue Ford and Chevy both.
Well, you know, that's not a bad idea. You could do it with the guns, we could do it
Why
with
not?
that.
China introduces mandatory face scans for phone users. That's coming here real soon too, where they're going to make you scan your face to get a phone.
China's on steroids.
Hey, you're right. U.S. Homeland Security proposes face scans for U.S. citizens. Now this is to fly with in and out of the country. Even though you're a citizen, you got to have a face scan to be able to do that soon.
It starts next October.
The so-called war on terror has killed over 801,000 people and cost $6.4 trillion already. 801,000 people that we know of has been killed because of that. Trump is first to use Patriot Act to detain a man forever. This is our good Patriot president. For the 18-year lifespan of the war on terrorism, an obscure provision of the Patriot Act permitting, that was in a Bush, by the way, remember? The other Christian conservative?
Right.
The indefinite detention of U.S. non-citizens has gone unused. But to keep a Palestine man behind bars even after he finished his sentence, the Trump administration has fired this bureaucratic Chekhov's gun. Anyway, he went on. This guy committed no crime. His crime was cutting checks to extremist Thai Muslim charities operating in places like Kosovo and Chechnya that Congress outlawed after 9/11, after the attacks. He'd already given them the money after they passed that law. They arrested him for giving to him before he knew anything about it. He's in jail for life because Trump said to keep him in jail. This is a man you put your faith in.
The news media is so overwhelmed with impeachment. I wonder what's going on in the background.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm wondering the same
Smoke
thing.
and mirrors.
Yeah.
Dog and pony show.
The global government, the UN actually, is preparing to finally do it, to have a global tax regime. They're going to tax the whole world, everyone in the world. You remember when Christ was born, Caesar Augustus sent out a decree that all the world should be taxed. So that's just the ones that they controlled, okay? Here you go. They want to pass a tax where all the world will be taxed.
Isn't that one world government then?
It is. Her Baltimore house was razed with 6 days' notice. I'm mortified how quick this happened. This is sad. 6 days, a demolition team tears down 5 adjacent properties on 1900 block of Holland Street, including the home of Frances Chase. 6 days early, a neighbor called her while she was at work to tell her about the yellow signs posted on her home and the vacant row houses. We decided announcing that the property were condemned, set to be abolished. The public is warned to keep away therein. She had 6 days to try to stop it. Chase is 65 years old, scrambled to figure out how to sue and how to fight it. They end up only having a few days to move decades of belongings. Some possessions purchased, hung on doorknobs, storage bins, and furniture remained inside. The crew tore down her house on September 23rd. She lived in a house and a home for 26 years, and they condemned it without even knowing it, and then tore it down while she's still living in it. That's America for you today.
Yeah.
You okay, Marsh?
Release them. Is that okay?
And in Virginia, they just put a bill up, but I don't think it'll fly. It's Senate Bill SB 64 that will make training, firearms training, illegal paramilitary activity and a felony. Y'all see that?
Mm-hmm.
A person is guilty of an unlawful paramilitary activity punishable as a Class 5 felony if he teaches or demonstrates to any other person the use, application, or making of any firearm, explosive or incendiary device or technique capable of causing injury or death to persons, knowing or having it anyway. If you show somebody how to shoot a gun, if it's passed, you'll be a felony, and you'll be a felon in Virginia.
Just for showing a
If
person
the
how to
people
shoot.
tolerate that, that's their own fault.
Absolutely.
And it says that in Virginia and elsewhere, gun supporters prepared to defy the law. So we'll see what happens. It's going to heat up. If something doesn't happen soon, Phil, we're going to be in civil war. And rightfully so. We can't help it. You know, you look at it this way. People like us do not want to fight. That is, we don't want to have a fight.
Right.
But when they keep coming after you, you either have to make this decision: defend yourself or get killed. Right.
Right.
Yep.
So it's now, according to a college in Malachester College in Minnesota, it says that it is, I'm trying to find the right word, it's not okay to celebrate Thanksgiving because it's based off the genocide of an indigenous people. Because we said we killed the Native Americans, Thanksgiving is not a good holiday. This is where we're heading, folks.
I think they need to read the history because there's a big difference there. I mean, those people helped us.
Oh yeah, they did.
Yeah, at Second Winter Buying, they felt so bad for us that they brought food, they taught the pilgrims how to plant, they even, in some ways, helped them build homes.
They did. That's a fact. Now, this one knew was happening, but they finally caught some of it. Chicago's rigging red light cameras to rack up millions in fines. Imagine that. It appears as though someone figured out that red light cameras could rack up tons more in fines if the number of times the light changes to red increases. This has led to nefariously shorter green lights in certain areas of Chicago. Now, the team timed traffic lights at intersections where cameras were present and found that drivers had less time to legally get through the intersections in directions where the cameras were watching. In one case, yellow and green lights were only 20 seconds combined. So, understand this, people. Politicians are like druggies. The only thing that keeps them running is more tax money.
Yep.
They're a leech on society. Government produces nothing and does nothing really viable that's of any use to a people, a moral people. But they keep expanding, so they have to have more money. So like a druggie, they got to keep getting the way they can. You understand that? So these cameras are a fine way to raise money. Denver business owner fined for not cleaning up vagrant poo and used needles. Now this is something. There's food, trash, drug deals, said Jezza Bazaar, who added, in the alley we get, the defecation, drug needles, and prostitution behind the internet company, forethought.net. One night an employee was sitting in the car when someone smashed the window and tried to stab him, according to Bazaar. And when Bazaar and his crew stopped cleaning up the constant hazardous mess left by the vagrants, telling CBS he's not equipped to deal with it, Denver fined him. The city is not going to enforce laws against trespassing or camping or public defecation and just make me bear the cost of these problems. That's just not right. So they fine him because he won't clean the mess up. This is a country that we're fighting for the freedom of the world. We're fighting for democracy. We had the gall to pass a bill through the House and Senate, and Trump signed it, a resolution that China needs to leave Hong Kong alone and make them a democracy. We had the gall to do that. Comments, Phil?
Yeah, we need to look in the mirror.
Amen. Coming to Washington. We mentioned this last time. Coming to Washington. Composting dead humans creates biogoo that gets flushed down the sewage pipes, turned into a biosludge, then deposited on crops.
Oh, that's disgusting.
This is true.
That's worse than the Chinese using human waste
It is.
for fertilizer.
Now, we'll get this later on maybe, but they're also putting it back in sewers in cities, and in cities they're taking the sewer, recleaning it, and putting it back in tap water. They're finding drugs in tap water like you won't believe.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Washington State is on the verge of legalizing the composting of human remains, which advocates say will create a new source of organic fertilizer for food crops. Isn't that wonderful? This is so-called organic fertilizer is actually a toxic and just plain disgusting biogoo that will easily make its way into sewage systems, only be recycled and turned into toxic biosludge. Isn't it wonderful to live in a country that has so much inventive ways to take care of the people? Folks, I don't mean to sound disgusting, but why is not the church exposing this?
Because
You stop for a picture with stars who didn't appear in the film, even if they looked like they had. Drag queen Nina West, Shangri-La, and Junior Minji, decked out in horns, black dresses, and in Minji's case, an ensemble dedicated to the film's fairies. In recent months, queens were invited to the Frozen 2 premiere and the Charlie's Angels debut, posing with Kristen Stewart, India Menzel, and Josh Gad. So these people are carousing with the stars, and they said you can make money off of them now.
Well, Hollywood's nothing but a bunch of hypocrites. They'll take their movies and they blow everybody up, shoot everybody they can, but they don't want no guns in their account.
That's exactly right.
He's making millions off of it, but you can't own one.
Now, with all this going on, there's a problem coming up, and they're trying to figure out how to fix it. Transgenderism and the Olympics. They don't know what to do.
I know what to do.
Next year's Tokyo Summer Olympics may spell the swift death of the transgender movement as a dominant, politically correct touchstone. Biological men, self-identifying women are poised to make a clean sweep of the Women's Olympics, triggering a very public debate on the third rail subject. That freedom pitting pro-women feminists against extreme pro-transgender progressives will begin on July 24th, just as the president's sweepstakes moves into anyway. So pitting pro-women feminists against pro-transgender progressivists. Now wait a minute. The women want to be equal, but they don't want to be equal. I'm transgenderism is a perversion beyond words, but they want to be equal to men. They want to get with the men, don't they? They want to play football with men. They would, come on now. The International Olympic Committee, the IOC, recently admitted they couldn't come up with fair guidelines governing how and when transgender women can compete as a woman against biological women. Currently, the IOC says self-identified women can compete so long as their testosterone level is being made below 10 nanomoles per liter for 12 months. Typically, men have between 7.7 and 29.4 milliliters of testosterone, while women have between 12 and 1.77. Under the IOC guidelines, a hormonally restricted man can still remain nearly 500% more testosterone advantage over women. You can't change sexes, you idiot.
Yeah.
I do have a solution to that problem, Butch.
What's that?
If you got an Olympic team or a high school girls team, and you got a man running as a woman, well, when they fire the gun and they say, go, all the women just take a knee. Let the man go who's running.
Yep.
And that would say a good strong protest, we don't want him.
But you can see how this has backfired on them. Mm-hmm. Women want to do everything men can do, and the man said, okay, then we'll do what you're going to do. I mean, come on, people.
Yeah.
Now, I'm so excited about this. Hot new fashion trend had men dressing in skirts, dresses, and 8-inch high heels. Oh, that is so sexy. I ain't got the legs for it, Phil. I really don't. That is so sad. This is actually what you're proposing.
They're pushing it.
It's happening in Colorado's public schools, and Colorado used to be a conservative state. They're really bad now. Are now requiring students to role-play child sacrifice poems as part of rape training indoctrination. Rape training indoctrination. The greatest challenge is covering the actual events taking place in our world today is that most people still don't recognize the level of depravity, perversion, and evil that has overtaken liberals and Democrats. So they can't mentally grasp the reality of what's actually happening all around them because it's unthinkable. So a 16-year-old Colorado girl was violated by a sexually explicit role-playing assignment in public school where she was required to role-play rape and sodomy concepts while the teacher demanded she read out loud poems like F-U-E-D-N-A blank blank and similar language. Most people dismiss this reality because they can't fathom it being real. She had to use those words in a poem when she role-played being raped and sodomized. But it's real, and it just happened in Steamboat Springs, Colorado. And it's got a picture of the girl and her daddy here, standing there in town. This is her. Skylar is 16 years old and attends public school in Colorado. Her teacher required Skylar to role-play sexually explicit rape and sodomy scenarios in front of the class where she was required to read out vulgar lines from a poem called Howl, H-O-W-L, which includes explicit words. Now my question is, and I'm trying to be calm here, why in the hell do you have your children in these schools in the first place?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Is that a good question, Dick?
Mm-hmm. Very good question.
If you love your child, Mr. What's your name there, Skylar's parent, why do you have her in a public school? I don't care about, I don't got the money to pay anywhere else. I can't do it. I can't teach myself. I don't care what your excuse is. You have no real reason for it. Nope. Your job is to raise that daughter in the fear and admonition of the Lord, not to put her in public school where she's required to read this trash and role play this. If you're, this is more your fault than the teachers. Did I say that clear enough?
Yes.
It's more the parents' fault than the teacher's fault this is going on. They were trained to do this.
There's more parents than what there are one teacher.
That's exactly right. Gil, should I get upset?
Mm-hmm.
You've been off plot days. Is everything working all right?
Yeah, I'm just watching the levels.
Am I getting too loud?
No?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Transgenderism is just a start. Racial self-ID is next. Like I told you, you can decide what race you want to be and pick it, okay? We all knew it was coming, and here it is. According to the Telegraph, one major lecturers' union had declared that people should be allowed to identify as black no matter what color they are born. After all, if your genitalia doesn't tell us anything about your sex, your skin color obviously doesn't tell us anything about your race. I'm a bit surprised it took so long for this to take off. The University of College Union, which represents more than 100,000 universities, lecturers, and staff, this is going across country, set out its position on whether people should be able to self-identify as different races or genders. In the paper, ECU position on trans inclusion, it stated the UCU has a long history of enabling members to self-identify whether it's black, disabled, LGBT, or women.
You can't change the DNA. I mean, you can change color, but you can't.
And you can't even change color.
You can't change color, it's paint yourself.
I mean, unless you got a good suit polish, yeah. I mean,
now this is sad, but unfortunately it's true. Chick-fil-A caved in big time.
yes.
Yeah, I heard that.
That's a shame.
It is a shame. I mean, I was real proud of them. And they did it. They've been doing it for quite a while, kept it hid.
Mm.
That makes it worse.
Did you see where they're putting their money to now?
Oh, yeah. I'm going to cover it in a minute. One of the nation's largest gay advocacy organizations is getting Chick-fil-A's divestment from Christian charities like Salvation Army with tepid praise and further demands, including an unequivocal denunciation of the brand's history and values. GLAD, whose name is an acronym for Gay and Lesbian Alliance Against Defamation, demanded safe workplaces for LGBTQ employees and an apparent denunciation of Christian ministries focused on the family, responding to Chick-fil-A's decision to stop donating to the Salvation Army, Angel Tree Program for Needy Children, and the Fellowship of Christian Athletes, which serves historically black colleges and universities. The full statement from Drew Anderson, a GLAD director of campaigns and rapid response, named more steps the fast food chain must take to show genuine repentance. Now, they have been doing this for a while. They have actually supported pro-homosexual groups in the past, donated to them, but they kept it secret.
Well, we know who their God is.
Folks, I really was hoping that'd be one group that would stick to the guns. Really, one organization, but who's their God?
Yeah.
Money. You hit them where it hurt.
But they weren't being hurt. I mean, the Christians supported them. You go there getting in their line for food. You're in line for a while because that place is busy. Not for me anymore.
No.
Now this part of life, this is something I'm kind of glad West Virginia took a stand on. West Virginia Library cancels drag queen event after violent threats.
Yep.
Morgantown Public Library System announced it was canceling drag queen story time event in a Facebook post Friday. The statement cited multiple threats of violence against the volunteer readers as reasons for cancellation. The voicemail left at the library was immediately returned. The library statement says it remains committed to fostering a love of reading for all ages, and we'll instead have its staffers read this event Saturday evening. Libraries and bookstores across the country have similar events where men in drag read stories to kids, with some drawing protest.
That.
Oh, here's what it is. I did have that. I thought I had it. Who's that say Chick-fil-A's donating to?
It's SPLC.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, they love me. It's like I was talking to Gene. and he's going to go to a Chick-fil-A. Their convictions have changed. His convictions are changing. He's not going to eat there anymore.
Good for him.
Yep.
Yeah, that's what everyone should do that was supporting them. If I wouldn't go out of my way now to go to Chick-fil-A.
No,
As a matter of fact, I won't even go to one.
I don't even know where they're at.
Oh, we can go to one and just stand out front with a sign that says Chick-fil-A is Two-Face.
I wrote Dan Cathy a letter months ago and told him to thank him for his stand. I will right now and explain to him that, hey, you betrayed a whole bunch of people, and I'm one of them.
Yeah.
Now this is some good news. We'll finish up with a couple of good articles here. This is good news anyway. From Russia with sins, Putin says niet to PC radicals for replacing mothers and fathers. Putin is more of a Christian than anybody we got in office anywhere. When it comes to protecting children and families in Russian tradition, Vladimir Putin has few rivals in a developed world. But will Russia be able to hold out forever against the globalist ultra-liberal agenda and now threatening the planet? Had Peter the Great known what strange ideas would come to fixate the Western mind, perhaps he would never have built his northerly city of St. Petersburg designed to throw open a window to the west. Indeed, he most likely would have evacuated the swampland, ditched his Europe-inspired beard tax, and retreated inland as far as possible. There are some citizens in the world, however, that could not have been predicted 30 years ago, to say nothing 300 years ago. The new realities have forced Russian lawmakers to reflect upon the future of Russian identity in the face of radical liberal tendencies. You said the word mother can't be replaced. It turns out perhaps it can. Putin reminded delegates in some countries they now have a parent number one and parent number two. I hope we never had that in Russia. Indeed, Putin was referencing a law passed in France early this year that mandates schools refrain from using mother and father, substituting it for parent number one and parent number two in an effort to accommodate the passage of 2013 same-sex marriage law. We have families who find themselves faced with tick boxes stuck in rather old-fashioned social and family models, said Dolly Pitt, MP from the party of President Emmanuel Macron. For us, this article is a measurement of social equality. In case anyone thought this would settle the confusion, the issue now is turned into the question as to which parent will be number one, number two. This is what our nation, this is what the world's come to. And when Putin told this to his legislators, they laughed. They thought it was ridiculous that they would even consider something like this. I believe I like their ideas better than our legislature's ideas. I swear to you. And here's one that'll make you feel good. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi Thursday pushed urging House Democrats to begin drawing up articles of impeachment has made her even more of a hero to some on the left. Now pay attention. Now one leftist is even comparing her to Jesus Christ.
Oh, why?
Time Magazine opinion contributor, and failed Democratic congressional candidate Christopher Hale posted a tweet Thursday comparing the House Speaker to Christianity's central figure. I say this is with total sincerity. I say this with total sincerity. Hale tweeted after Pelosi's announcement, Nancy Pelosi reminded me of Jesus. She's an enduring witness to truth, to justice, to mercy, and to compassion. The president and the Christian supporters can learn something from her.
I've learned a lot from her, but ain't that.
How the stands look ugly.
This is America today.
Yep.
Well, if Trump gets impeached, then the only person who can take his position is Nancy Pelosi.
No, it'll be vice president.
Right, president, but they're working on him too.
No, of course. But understand this, folks. They're comparing one of the most wicked women ever lived, almost as bad as Hillary, and probably worse in some areas, I don't know, to Jesus Christ.
That's blasphemy.
It is blasphemy.
Big time.
And the people in America do what? What do the churches do?
Nothing.
You think anybody in the church will ever bring this up?
No. Absolutely not. If you put out the church, if you did, they'd probably vote for it.
Oh, and folks, we're going to show some videos in a minute, so don't go away. We're back here 15 minutes earlier than normal to start the teaching I want to do. And this teaching is so important in that, I mean, really important. One of the most important teachings I've ever done, if not the most important teaching, because we're going to find out that I'm saying this out of love, total out of love and concern for many people that I have misled. The fallacy of easy believism. Please don't miss this. Back in a little bit.
Owen Schroyer here for Infowars.com, and I'm standing outside the Austin Resource Center
for the homeless here in downtown Austin, Texas. And we're going to ask some of the local homeless people here if they've heard of the ID 2020 program, the ID 2020 Alliance, where they plan on testing microchipping of humans here in Austin with a microchip to store your biometric data. This is part of a global rollout that they want to test here in Austin, Texas. So we're going to find out if some of the local homeless here have heard about this and what they think about it, and if they would be willing to take the microchip as part of this program. Have you heard, sir, of the ID 2020 Alliance program?
No.
Would you be willing to take a microchip to get services?
Absolutely, positively not. Sounded a little bit 666 to me.
Do you receive any services from the resource center here?
Yes, I have a case manager.
Now, if they said that we're going to microchip you to receive services, would you be willing to do that?
No, I would not. I think that's an invasion of privacy.
Yeah. Excuse me, sir. Have you ever received services from this resource center here?
Yeah.
If they asked you to take a microchip to receive services here, would you do that?
No, I'm gonna be out on the street then. I'm gonna be on the street because I'm not putting nothing foreign into my body if God didn't tell me.
Does that sound like the mark of the beast?
That sounds a little scary, man. Like they think they own my body and they out of their mind. That's crazy. We talking about total mind control. And
have you ever received any services from this resource center?
oh yes.
If you were to be told you had to get a microchip to continue to receive services here, would you take that microchip?
Like in me or?
Yeah, they would put a microchip in you to store your biometric data.
No, I don't think I would do that.
Do you receive services here?
I work here, sir.
Have you heard of the ID 2020 Alliance?
No, sir.
If you want to get services like this, or if say you have a run-in with police or something, they can just ID you with the microchip, and then that you just always have it in you. But that's the way that they would get you to do it, is to say, oh well, you can't receive services here anymore unless you get the microchip.
No, we ain't interested in no shit like that.
That microchips are for animals and cattle and other like that. Not human.
No.
Does that sound like the mark of the beast?
Yes.
That sounds like treating somebody like an animal or something.
Would you take the microchip?
No. I feel like if they put a microchip inside of you, they have access to everything.
Have you heard of the ID 2020 program?
Mm-hmm.
You have heard of this?
I heard.
When they want to microchip people down here?
Yes.
What do you think about that?
I think it's good about it. It's good for them, but then they need to stop blowing their mouth on dope and get them somewhere to stay. We don't want no microchip.
Would you take a microchip to receive services? No? Okay, that's all right. Would you, if they said, hey, we're going to give you a microchip for you to receive services here, would you take it?
In your body?
Yes.
No.
Do you mind taking the camera off the property?
Yeah, we can do that. Just a real quick question. Have you guys heard of ID 2020? Have you heard about that?
I can't answer any questions. I'm not at liberty to talk to the media.
Okay.
I'm a crackhead. Welcome to the city.
What?
I love crack.
Now, sir, what if in order to receive all of that, you had to take a microchip?
Huh?
What if in order to receive all of that, you had to take a microchip? Would you be willing to do that?
Yeah. You watch me wherever I go. Yeah.
You would take the microchip?
Yeah, I'll take a microchip.
Would you be willing to take a microchip to receive services here? No way? Put it inside you. No?
Man, you better leave me alone.
No?
A microchip.
Yeah.
Suck a dick down.
Do that?
Microchip.
No.
Micro.
Yeah. You wouldn't do that?
Man, micro.
So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. It seems that the homeless in Austin are pretty woke, at least when it comes to the mark of the beast and microchipping being done. So they want no part of that. So if Austin does decide to roll that out, it will just create more problems for this city. For Infowars.com, this is Owen Schroyer.
How much water do we have?
Carl, you may put away the tents.
Tell the bearer to choose smooth terrain. I do not like to be jostled.
As I was saying, Carl, how much water do we have? 4 barrels?
3 barrels. There are 3 barrels of water. While I was waiting, I used one to take a bath.
I want to tell you about an old American custom. 2 wagons, 1, 2, comprise a wagon train. A wagon train is run by maritime law. I am the guide, the captain. If you interfere with one of my whims or fancies or orders, that interference constitutes mutiny, and I can have you imprisoned or put on bread and water. There are no yardarms out here and precious few trees. But if I so desire, I can stand a wagon tongue on end, run a rope over the top around your neck, and run you up. Is that clear? And from now on, you sleep in the wagon. Don't just stand there, start loading your gear.
They hauled us down here. Nobody's talking at our house.
This is the county courthouse.
Is it going to be written down that I'm lady of the house, like you said? You know, I still got a lot of friends in the Merchant Marine, and if they get wind of this, why, I'll be the laughing stock of every quarter deck from here to Singapore.
It'll be written down, Mr. O'Casey, but I assure you that no one will see it except a few stuffed shirt lawyers like myself.
Well, it's okay, then.
Judge Leland, will Uncle Charlie actually be recorded as the lady of the house?
Well, it's what we call a legal fiction. Something which is recognized as a fact, but which is not, in fact, a fact for legal purposes.
Ain't it amazing how an education can get in the way of somebody saying something other people can understand?
You will actually be a part of the family, which means that what they decide for you, you must do. If Mr. O'Casey thinks that you should be punished in some way, as a mother might punish you, you must obey. If Mr. Douglas gives you less allowance than the other boys, as a father might do because you are the younger, you must accept this. You'll find, Ernie, that the other boys and you will not always agree. Living in a new home is not one long, perpetual Christmas.
You just saw a little video clip on fictions of law. This is a second part of a basic educational series. You recently saw one called Maritime Law. What is maritime law? And that was portrayed or described in an episode of Paladin in black and white. And he presents it pretty much black and white. So, interesting, very. Fictions of law, okay? This is also in black and white. What is a fiction of law? As I've said in the past and in the last episode, that if I have any spiritual gifts, it is, I believe, the gift of education. So I'm having a blast bringing out some things that have been hidden from view on purpose. And fictions and maritime law, the gold French flag, we could go on and on and on, but I'm going to try to stay focused and explain what fictions of law are. Okay. Back in, oh, by the way, today is December 7th. This is the 1-year anniversary of the beginning of the arbitration process, not the actual arbitration itself, but what led up to the arbitration, which is now available to every American out there. Okay? And you probably want to take advantage of it, because Congress is just about to close the door on any future arbitrations of civil rights violations such as this. There's a bill in Congress, passed the House, it's in the Senate, had 2 readings, it's gone to the Judiciary Committee, it comes back, it's voted on, and if the president signs it, or he doesn't sign it, and they override his veto, or whatever shenanigans they pull, it could be over. Now, back in 2015, July 14th, in West Virginia, in actions that led up to the federal level, but at the state level, we filed, first we petitioned for redress of grievances, and then we filed in court. When the court and when the defendants addressed us, they addressed us as fictions. And so we produced a document which was a proper correction of the defendant's response, where they refer to us as fictions, creations, not real people, not real men. Okay, there were 3 men, and they thought we were the 3 Stooges. And whenever they make a statement, if you do not refute it, then you're admitting to it. So you have to properly address their responses if they're incorrect. So let's look at some parts of this document. I'm not going to show you the whole document. I'm going to show you the parts. It's going to give you an understanding of a very important concept of law, and it's also going to give you a good understanding of what we did, why we did it, how we did it, who we did it for, and it's impressive. It's awesome. I mean, we through divine providence, in my estimation, we navigated through a minefield where a lot of people have not survived. And that's sad, because we have a tyrannical government that's capable of just about anything. So let's look at this document. Let's look at page 1 first. Top of the page, it says plaintiffs. Now I show myself here. The Honorable Philip Hudock, proceeding in propria persona sui juris, a real man with hands and legs. By the way, that's a term that the government uses for real people, ones with hands and legs, not fictions, okay? So it's not something we invented. It's using their language, because you've got to understand your enemy, okay? Quitam pro domino rege quam pro se ipso in hoc parte sequitur. Okay, and that's my old address. They changed my address because of 911. So, and that was a real butchering of Latin, but hey. Now, who are the defendants? Well, I list 2 here. Governor Tomlin, Earl Ray Tomlin, aka Earl Ray Tomlin, all caps. Now, the Earl Ray Tomlin, upper and lower, is the man. The Earl Ray Tomlin, all caps, is the corporation. As a matter of fact, we found out that Earl Ray Tomlin had 3 corporations for the governor's office, okay? And one of them was classified as, let's see, what was it classified as? Entertainment, an entertainment corporation. the governor's office, entertainment. Okay, you figure that one out. The other person here is Patrick Morrissey. Again, we see upper and lower, and we see all caps. We see the fiction, the corporate fiction, because they do incorporate. And notice that it says foreign agent, purported attorney general. We said the same thing about the governor. Okay. So you'll notice that my fingerprints are on here. That's me, a real person, because guess what? Fictions can't produce fingerprints. Page 2. The case in the West Virginia Supreme Court was 150491. And by the way, we took that all the way up to the Supreme Court. We amended the case to include the justices as defendants themselves. 4 of these 5 justices later became impeached, but they weren't impeached because of what we did. They were impeached for stealing and some other things, but we had the real goods on the entire crap game. And let me tell you, when government realizes a person or a department realizes you're going after them, they circle the wagons and they protect their crap game. Okay, they may compete against each other, but they're not going to compete against you. They're just going to eliminate you, however, whether it's legally or physically, whatever. Let me read from page 2, bottom of the page here. I, Philip Hudak, the signatory and plaintiff, do by these presents, under full liability and complete transparency, aver, attest, affirm, declare, and testify to the accuracy and truthfulness of the following various letter combinations, to wit. The defendants claim it is in the creature of the mind, fiction of law, and corporate in the Supreme Court of Appeals of West Virginia. Yet the original complaint and demand was filed in person in and at a structure that appeared to be real, unlike what their purported response is magically placed into. I do not possess these same magical skills, nor would I want to. They refer to us as fictions. And we said, no. You did some magic here. We're not fictions. I shall now set forth in a proper correction of the aforementioned response, which is not an answer as the average person would, but an attempt to pervert justice simply because the defendants and their conspirators believe they are above the rule of law. And truly, they do believe they're above the rule of law. The defendants have already been notified of the proper names, capacity, standings, jurisdiction, and venue of the plaintiffs. Yet the defendants feel they can do whatever they please. It is the defendants that have failed to provide proper and lawful evidence of who the defendants are, which is at the center of the emergency affirmed complaint and demand. Anybody can claim anything, but at some point must realize the defendants may be called out publicly, as I do now. The proper standing, capacity, jurisdiction, and venue of the plaintiffs are as follows, to wit. And there's the plaintiff, okay? Philip Hudak, upper and lower. And this was filed as a qui tam. What this Latin is saying is that I'm filing this on behalf of all men, and I'm filing it on behalf of men, not fictions, creations of God. Okay? Let's get down to the bottom of page 3. The defendants have purposely attempted to exclude the unknowns and purported governor, and so they are properly inserted above. As any rational person knows, spelling, capitalization, and punctuation mean everything in law. By the way, it means everything in the Bible too, you know. The Bible says it's not to be changed one jot or one tittle. They are also attempting to change the plaintiffs to a petitioner, which may be proper if the plaintiffs were not utilizing the blended jurisdictions which operate in the purported state of West Virginia courts. Okay, they also blend jurisdictions. There's commercial, there's civil, ecclesiastical. Those are jurisdictions, and they're not supposed to do that. You should just be in one jurisdiction, okay? But they morph, okay? Just like they wanted us to morph into a fictional creation. The defendants, purporting themselves to be lawful government and expressing by their own actions and purported answer that they are above the law, have called into question the mental ability to hold any purported constitutional office. We're saying, you don't belong there. How can we rely on their ability to be competent purported public servants? The purported federal courts refer to the corpus juris secundum, have stated that incompetents and minors are wards of the court. Incompetents and minors are wards of the court. How do you become incompetent? Well, there's two ways. You get an attorney. If you get an attorney, you're saying, I'm incompetent and I need help, and so I'm incompetent, and my attorney isn't incompetent, although he is actually an officer of the court, so we got a problem there, you know. And of course, if you're a child, you're considered to be incompetent, so, you know, you have, that's why children have parents, okay? Another way to be incompetent is you go into court and you represent yourself. A representation is something less than what it is representing. So you go in as something less than you, which is a person, so you go in as a fiction. So you're saying you're not smart enough, but you'll let this imaginary creation of the state called a fiction to defend yourself. I mean, it's crazy. I know. I have a hard time wrapping my mind around this. But if they say you are representing yourself, which is what they kept saying we were representing ourselves, and no, we are ourselves. Why would I need someone to represent myself when I am myself? Okay? Further, it appears there is now a serious conflict of interest. The corporations and real men with hands and legs being sued are now finding those from within the same to represent them. Okay, when we went to the governor with this suit, the governor didn't defend himself. He got an attorney. The attorney general got an attorney. As a matter of fact, the Supreme Court justices got attorneys. Recently, and maybe I'll show you that document, they actually got attorneys. These are the Supreme Court justices, so therefore they were saying that they were incompetent. Here we go again, folks. It's a rabbit hole, it's a bizarro world, and we called them out. Defendants are attempting to assert only purported official capacities, even though they are brought in under purported official capacities, personal capacity and corporate capacity, all by counsel, obviously, as they are incompetent to answer, let alone hold any office or position of trust. You gotta love it. In the purported statement of facts, the defendants say that the plaintiffs assert unsubstantiated facts and allegations. We appreciate their confirmation of the facts, and because they are agreed to as facts, they are, of course, through common sense, tacit consent and agreement, then verify the allegations as fact as well. Okay. Now we're going to get into what we presented in this document called Proper Correction of Defendant's Response. We get into some dictionary definitions of fictions. Okay, we're trying to educate these poor, elected, incompetent officials who are the governor and the attorney general and the Supreme Court justices and the Senate clerk. Page 4, bottom of the page. Black's Law Dictionary, 5th edition, states, fiction of law, an assumption or supposition of law that something which is or may be false is true. Okay, so you're going to say something that is false or may be false is true. And concludes with a rule of law which assumes as true and will not allow to be disproved something which is false, but not impossible. So you cannot disprove that the false thing which you say is true is actually false. So they say by definition you can't disprove that it's not true. It is confusing. We certainly have a problem, don't we? Check the purported public record as it was incorporated within the original affirmed complaint and demand. The kidnappers are, by their own definition, and we actually had a situation of kidnapping that we were addressing. See Title 5 USC 331, 332, 333, backed up by Title 22 CFR Foreign Relations 9.92.12 to 92.31 and Title 8 USC Section 1481. And here's what it says. The public official relinquishes his national citizenship and are thus foreign agents as stipulated under Title 22 USC Chapter 11 Section 611, loss of national citizenship. Okay. International Organization Immunities Act of 12/9/1945. Therefore, foreign agents. Did you get that? Our government is populated with foreign agents. That's the law. Our intent is not to wreck the system, and that's an important point. Okay. Treaty of Peace 2020, which became Bill of Peace 2020, because we're going for a bill in Congress on the private side for settlement, okay, of an order, is not an intent to wreck the system. It's putting government on notice. Hey, the gig's up. We know your game. We know what you're doing. There are 1,700 plus whistleblowers that I spread out on this dining room table. Okay? We're telling the government, hey, we're not trying to wreck the system, but your contract is void. We have another contract. Why should we support your habit? Your unlawful actions. Hello? Where am I? It is not our intent to wreck the system, but to bring it back into a condition of health, profiting all people. Not persons. Persons are corporations. Did you know that? Corporations have personhood. But people, they want us to be fictions. But they've made corporations, giving them personhood. Go figure. It would do everyone, both the public and purported public servants, well to contemplate the transformation of meaning and original intentions behind the terms fiction and fiction of law. Early law dictionaries, such as the 1708 Cowell Law Dictionary, does not even mention fiction or fiction of law. The 1740 Hodges Student's Law Dictionary has fiction of law and defines it only as an invented form of conveyance for the docking of an estate. Where'd fiction come from? I'm going to tell you. Fiction came from a situation where someone had an estate, they passed away, so they create a fake person, a fiction, a creation of the mind, and that fiction stands in the place of that person to effectuate the transfer of the estate. Okay, so that was what it was designed. That's how it came into being, according to Hodge's Law Dictionary. That it was an invented form of conveyance for the docking of an estate. Okay, page 5. Let's look at the 1810 Tomlin's Law Dictionary. Warns that fiction of law is allowed of in several cases, but it must be framed according to the rules of law, not what is imaginable in the conception of man. And there ought to be equity and possibility in every legal fiction. Okay, that's 1810. So here they're saying there must be equity. Equity means there must be justice. Okay, things have to be done proper here, and you're not supposed to just say, I wonder what I imagine I could use a fiction for. Let's see. No. You see, that's the problem with government. Government is like fire, according to George Washington. It's a dangerous it's a dangerous servant that can actually be a master. I'm paraphrasing, okay? So you have to keep it under control. Government will not stay within its bounds. It has to be contained. It's kind of like a tiger in Barnum Bailey's circus. And we're going to get to circuses, okay? Now let's go to 1843, Bouvier's Volume 1A Law Dictionary, in where it states it establishes as true something which is false. Okay. This is what I highlighted out of Bouvier's dictionary. It differs from presumption. Now they're talking about a fiction of law, because it establishes as true something which is false, whereas presumption supplies the proof of something true. Okay? So a fiction of law establishes truth from falsehood. A presumption actually establishes proof of something that's true. We go on. Fiction is the resource of weakness. You're not doing this out of a position of strength. This is, it's kind of like really sad you even have to do this. Which, in order to obtain its object, assumes as a fact what is known to be contrary to truth. Fictions, this is precious. Fictions of law owe their origin to the legislative usurpations of the bench. Do we see that over and over? Making law from the bench, legislating from the bench. So they're saying fictions of law didn't come from the law-making body. They came from the law-interpreting body called the judiciary. And here's another piece from 1843, Bouvier. That the heir, executor, and administrator stand by representation in the place of the deceased are all fictions of law. That the heir, executor, and administrator stand by representation. There's that word again. See, they want you to represent yourself, because now you become a fiction. Okay, words in law have their meaning and what you think their meaning is. So you didn't think representation probably meant that you were an imbecile, and so therefore you were creating something that doesn't even exist. Wow, that's crazy. Just like understanding. When they say, do you understand? They don't mean, do you comprehend? They mean, do you accept that you are down here and we are up here? And that's why they sit up on the stage and you sit down here, because they're superior to you. You're just a subject. Well, you're not even a subject. You're a fiction. Okay? Let me continue. Okay, this is the last, it's not the last page, but it's the last part of Proper Correction of Defendant's Response, July 14, 2015, that I'm going to share with you. I had a great time writing this. In Lewis Carroll's 1871 book, Through the Looking Glass, otherwise known as Alice in Wonderland, Alice is amazed to find a world where what is isn't and what isn't is. The corporate fiction world that we now live in has taken fiction of law and what is isn't and what isn't is to levels way beyond the restricted framing and equity warned of and practiced in the past. Whereas fiction of law was used for simple conveyance of property of the deceased, we have shown by clear and convincing evidence in our filings that we are simply considered property, creatures of the mind, but we are real men with hands and legs. Congress has relinquished every public office over to the UN. Now all government bodies, from local governments to the presidency, fall under UN jurisdiction. When Obama took the chairmanship of the UN Security Council, it was more than symbolism of UN usurpation. It would arguably be a violation of Section 9 of the Constitution of the United States of America, 1819, which states, quote, "No title of nobility shall be granted by the United States, and no person holding any office of profit or trust under them shall, without consent of the Congress, except of any president, emolument, office, or title of any kind whatever from any king, prince, or foreign state." This purported court has the duty and responsibility to its creators to uphold the rule of law and protect all real men with hands and legs from intrusions and acts of war by these purported public officials and purported public servants who are in fact foreign agents and or esquires. Attorneys sometimes go by esquire. That was one of the original, I think it was the 13th Amendment to the Constitution, which was actually ratified by all the states, but then they pulled a little fiction and changed the 13th Amendment. That's another story. Anyway, sadly, Congress gave the UN the right to dictate what laws will be international and give them the right to tax the states. Their enforcers are therefore foreign agents. Ignorance of these laws, controlling everyone, is no excuse. It is only reality as claimed by the defendants in their imaginary land of fictions that they will not allow to be disproved. Something which is false. Okay. Well, some of you already knew this, but what I want to show you now is in our filings, because it is truly a circus. It's bizarre world. We are in la la land as far as what the government is actually doing and what they actually are, who they are, okay? So in our filings, we used an appropriate stamp to show our disdain and dislike and distrust and everything that's by circus stamps, okay? So you see here, on the 4th day of September, I signed, thumbprinted, with a Barnum and Bailey circus stamp. And Gene Stonecker did the exact same thing. Gene Stonecker. Actually, Gene Stonecker, who was one of the original complainants, okay, he was a postmaster. So he knows all about postal regulations. As a matter of fact, we actually caught the Supreme Court violating postal regulations. But it was his idea. When the Supreme Court said that even though we filed an amended case naming them as defendants, that it mysteriously had actually, the case had been dismissed 10 days earlier. Now get that. We filed an amendment into a case that they later told us didn't exist anymore because it was dismissed. These people work in magic, okay? That's why we had to go all the way up the food chain. You're not going to get any justice in the courts, as I explained in maritime law. Okay, so, and here's here's an image from Gene's response to the Supreme Court of Appeals, in which he tells them, wait a minute, we're not accepting that you dismissed the case. We never accepted it, okay? As a matter of fact, the Elkins Intermountain published an article saying that case was still active, which I'll show you now. And guess what? They didn't respond. If it was true, why wasn't I notified it was dismissed? How could we file into a case that had been dismissed? So Gene did some real nice artwork here with some circus stamps. I think that covers the situation of fictions. I thank you for tuning in, watching this, and the game's not over. You remember, you have the choice. Are you going to play their game? Are you going to be a fiction? Are you going to be a subject? Are you going to do what they tell you, when they tell you, how they tell you, and they'll tell you what happens if you don't do everything they say, what will happen to you. So, are you a real man with hands and legs, or are you a subject? Are you a creation of God, or are you a creation of the state? It's going to get crazier and crazier. Personally, as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. And I'm going to be a whistleblower. So, hoodop.info, go there, check it out. I'm going to play the My Three Sons fiction clip again. God bless. Catch y'all later. Bye.
Judge Leland, will Uncle Charlie actually be recorded as the lady of the house?
Well, it's what we call a legal fiction. Something which is recognized as a fact, but which is not, in fact, a fact for legal purposes.
Ain't it amazing how an education can get in the way of somebody saying something other people can understand?